Welcome to part 2 of basic operations in DAC Delivery Manager. So from the landing page, let's look at the contents inside of a particular stop. So if we touch on a tablet, the little circular button, or click with the mouse to go into that stop, the first thing we see is if your company has certain repeating messages that are tied to a given customer, those types of things can show up. Typically, you might or might not see this depending on how that's used by your company. So I have some messages here, and I could actually amend that message or change some things in it, or I could just continue with no update. So that's what I'm going to do. Just wanted to show that was a feature that we tap into. You have the standard navigational buttons up at the top that we talked about, the orange buttons for forward and backward. Complete is basically a submit button. We have container and items. These are for scanning things at the stop, and we will come back and cover those in detail in another part. Just want to give you the overview here. There's a place to make notes for a given stop, so that you can record notes that are tied to this specific invoice that live on with it. A basic breakdown for the route. There are four stops on this route. And there are 5 invoices, so that means one of those stops has multiple invoices. By the way, when you scan containers or totes or scan items in, if there are multiple invoices for that stop, it does resolve those automatically to give an update to the actual invoice that's being updated. All stops takes you back to the landing page. The show credits, by default, credit memos are hidden. But if you want to see them, you can check that little button off and you will see credit memos. So it's just a way to bring those up. If you need to know the location for the store, this would be different than the actual location for the route that we showed in part 1, the entire route. This is the location of this particular store. This is what you would see there by clicking that link. We have some breakdown. If you want to, if you need to return items, are there items to be returned? Awaiting a pickup request, that information is shown out here to the right if an outstanding pickup request exists, or if the driver needs to return a product as a driver return, maybe something got damaged during delivery and so forth. Those things can be done. That will all be covered in a separate segment. You have the total number of totes, bundles, cigarette cartons, the invoice dollar total. If money needs to be collected, that shows up as a dollar value in here. You see I have a pretty excessive value in my test system. If you do collect money, you can enter the dollar value of the amount collected and the check number. If you're picking up totes and you're keeping perpetual inventory of the number of totes tied to a given store, this is where you can indicate that. You can also indicate the odometer reading when you got to that store as something additional you can do, not required. None of these entries are required, but they may be dictated by policy from your company. If I move down a little bit, you can see the signature capture, and you can see previously I had captured a signature on here, and I'm just going to redo just to show you that you can redo that. I'm doing this with the mouse. Typically on a tablet, it'd be fingertip. No stylus is required. I'm going to save that. It says, are you sure you want to save that signature? I'm going to say yes. And I believe if I come down here and click on this, it will refresh my signature that was captured. So you can do that. You can obviously clear on the little canvas or undo if you start to do one and you want to undo it. I'll just show you an example of that. I haven't saved it. I say, nah, I really don't like that. Let's just clear it and start over. So that little section of the signature canvas operates that way. Then you also have a breakdown at the bottom, which is also configurable based on the way your company wants to see things configured. Typically is similar to the way things are done at the bottom of an invoice. And speaking of invoices, you can also come down here if you need a copy of the entire invoice. Again, you can click that link and it will populate and bring up a plain paper version of that invoice. So those are the basic fundamentals. We will come back in and deal with this in a little more detail in part 3. Stay tuned for that. Thanks.